Jason and Smith grew up 3 houses apart. They rode the same school bus every morning. Their parents worked ordinary jobs. Neither family had trust funds, investment properties, or wealthy relatives waiting to pass down money. They graduated from the same high school, started working within a year of each other, and spent most of their adult lives earning what most people would call middle-class incomes. From the outside, their lives looked remarkably similar. They both bought modest homes. They both raised children. They both took vacations when they could afford them and worried about bills when unexpected expenses showed up. Then they both turned 62. Jason opened his retirement account and saw $430,000. Smith logged into his and found $61,000. That's a difference of almost $370,000. The strange part, neither man won the lottery. Neither started a company. Neither inherited a fortune. Their salaries were never dramatically different. Somewhere across nearly 40 years, something almost invisible kept pushing them farther apart. Not all at once, not dramatically, just quietly, year after year, until the gap became impossible to ignore. Today we're going to uncover exactly what happened, because the same invisible forces are shaping millions of retirements without people realizing it. Hey, I'm Brian, and I spend way too much time thinking about why perfectly responsible people reach retirement feeling financially unprepared. Most people assume the answer is simple: earn more money, get lucky, or find the perfect investment. But that's rarely what separates someone who retires with $500,000 from someone who struggles to reach $100,000. The real difference is hidden inside ordinary decisions that barely feel important when they're made. By the end of this video, you'll have a name for that uneasy feeling many people have about retirement. And more importantly, you'll understand why so many hardworking people never reach $500,000, even after decades of working. If you enjoy honest, numbers-first conversations about money, consider subscribing. Every week, we break down the financial realities most people were never taught. If you're new here and just subscribed, comment your name below. I read every comment and shout out new subscribers in my next video. I do appreciate you joining me on this finance journey. Rule 1 is this: the median is a warning, not a benchmark. Here's an uncomfortable number. The median American household has only about $87,000 saved for retirement. At first glance, that might not sound catastrophic. After all, $87,000 is still a substantial amount of money. Until you ask one simple question: what can it actually produce? Using the widely discussed 4% withdrawal guideline, $87,000 generates roughly $3,480 per year. That's about $290 per month. Not per week, per month. That doesn't cover a typical grocery bill for many households, let alone housing, healthcare, transportation, and everything else retirement demands. Even more surprising, households approaching retirement, people in their late 50s and early 60s, have a median retirement balance of only about $185,000. That's better, but it's still only enough to generate roughly $7,400 annually, or about $620 each month, using the same guideline. Jason understood those numbers long before he retired. Smith never looked. He assumed that simply working for 40 years would naturally lead to financial security, because that's what most people around him believed. That's an incredibly normal assumption. Human beings judge progress by looking sideways. If everyone around us is doing something, it starts to feel safe. The problem is that averages don't tell us what's comfortable. Sometimes they simply reveal how widespread a problem has become. The smarter reframe is simple. Don't compare yourself to the median household. Compare your retirement balance to the income it can actually produce. Because retirement isn't measured by account balances. It's measured by monthly cash flow. Rule 2 is this: the invisible wealth drain isn't spending, it's lifestyle inflation. Most people think financial problems come from buying expensive luxury items. In reality, wealth usually disappears through dozens of upgrades that each feel completely reasonable. A slightly newer car, a larger apartment, more restaurant meals, a premium streaming subscription, nicer furniture, a vacation that's just a little more expensive than last year's. Every individual decision feels affordable because income has increased, but something important quietly disappears: the opportunity for that higher income to compound. Every time Jason received a raise, he allowed himself to enjoy part of it. The rest automatically flowed into retirement savings. When he earned an extra $5,000 per year, he didn't spend all $5,000. He invested a meaningful portion before he had time to adapt his lifestyle. Smith did what almost anyone would naturally do. A raise felt like permission to upgrade life. Nothing reckless, nothing irresponsible, just slightly nicer everything. After a few months, the raise no longer felt like extra income because it had already become part of his normal spending. This is why lifestyle inflation is so dangerous. It doesn't feel like losing money. It feels like making progress. The better approach isn't refusing to enjoy raises. It's deciding in advance where every new dollar goes. If each raise automatically sends even 1% more toward retirement savings before lifestyle expands, income begins working for future freedom instead of permanently increasing today's expenses. That single habit doesn't look dramatic in 1 year. Across 40 years, it changes everything. Rule 3 is this: compounding starts so quietly that most people give up before it becomes impressive. This may be the most misunderstood part of building wealth. People expect investing to feel rewarding immediately. Instead, the early years often feel disappointingly slow. Imagine 2 retirement accounts. The first contains $50,000. The second contains $500,000. If both earn an average annual return of 10%, the first account grows by about $5,000 over a year. The second grows by about $50,000. Notice something important. The owner of the larger account didn't necessarily work harder that year. The money did. That's the moment when compounding stops feeling like a theory and starts acting like another employee. Jason understood this even when his account looked unimpressive. For years, he watched relatively small annual gains and kept contributing anyway because he knew the biggest rewards come later, not sooner. Smith looked at his early balances and reached a conclusion that millions of people reach. This isn't making enough difference. So contributions slowed. Some years they stopped altogether. The mistake wasn't mathematical, it was psychological. Our brains naturally expect effort to produce immediate results. When progress feels slow, we assume the strategy isn't working. But investing follows a different pattern. The hardest years emotionally are often the most important years financially, because they're laying the foundation for growth that becomes obvious decades later. If this breakdown has helped connect a few dots already, hit the like button. It tells me these grounded, numbers-first conversations are worth making, and it helps more people discover them. Because once compounding finally becomes visible, most of the work has already been done. And that brings us to another belief that quietly holds millions of people back: the idea that someone else will make up the difference when retirement finally arrives. And that leads directly to Rule 4. Social Security is a floor, not a foundation. One of the most expensive retirement assumptions isn't believing you'll earn extraordinary investment returns. It's believing that someone else has already solved retirement for you. The average Social Security retirement benefit is around $23,000 per year. Break that into monthly income, and you're looking at roughly $1,900 each month before taxes for the average recipient. For many households, that barely covers housing. Add groceries, utilities, insurance, transportation, and healthcare, and it's obvious why so many retirees continue working longer than they originally planned. This isn't because Social Security failed. It's because it was never designed to replace a full working income. It was designed to reduce poverty. That's a very different mission. Jason understood that distinction early. He viewed Social Security as a dependable starting point, a financial floor beneath him. Everything he invested over the decades was intended to build a higher standard of living above that floor. Smith quietly believed something different. He assumed Social Security would naturally provide the lifestyle he'd become accustomed to while working. Again, that's an incredibly understandable assumption. Most people spend decades paying into the system, so it's easy to imagine that it will eventually provide enough to maintain the same way of life. But retirement doesn't care what feels fair. It responds to math. Suppose 2 retirees each receive around $23,000 annually from Social Security. One also withdraws $20,000 each year from investments. The other withdraws only $2,400, because that's all the portfolio safely supports. Those 2 people receive the same government benefit, yet they experience completely different retirements. The lesson isn't to ignore Social Security. It's to stop treating it as the entire retirement plan. The stronger approach is to think of it as the first income stream, not the only one. Every dollar invested throughout your working years is another future paycheck that doesn't depend on your employer or the government. That's how retirement becomes more secure. Not through one source of income, through multiple sources working together. Rule 5 is where everything comes together. The real math of reaching $500,000 has far more to do with time than perfection. Here's a comparison that surprises almost everyone. Imagine someone begins investing $400 every month at age 25. They continue consistently and earn an average annual return of 10%. By approximately age 53, they've accumulated around $500,000. Now change only one variable. Instead of starting at 25, they wait until age 45. They invest the exact same $400 every month. They earn the exact same average annual return. They stay disciplined until age 65. Their ending balance is only about $270,000. Nothing changed except 20 years. No worse investments. No lower income. No market disaster. Just fewer years for compounding to do its work. That's why Jason didn't obsess over finding perfect investments. He obsessed over staying invested. Smith wasn't irresponsible. He simply believed he could catch up later. Later arrived, compounding had less time to help. This is one of the hardest truths in personal finance. Money can often be replaced. Time cannot. The goal isn't to invest huge amounts immediately. The goal is to give ordinary contributions extraordinary amounts of time. Because once compounding has enough years behind it, the portfolio begins creating wealth faster than your paycheck ever could. So what should someone actually do after hearing all of this? Start with 5 small moves. First, check your retirement balance today. Not next month. Not at the end of the year. Open the account and replace assumptions with actual numbers. Second, multiply that balance by 4%. That simple calculation estimates the annual income your current savings may be able to support in retirement. Then divide it by 12. That monthly number often tells a much clearer story than the account balance itself. Third, increase your retirement contribution by just 1% this month. A small increase is far easier to sustain than an unrealistic promise to double your savings overnight. Fourth, turn on automatic annual contribution increases if your retirement plan offers them. That way, every future raise quietly benefits your future self before lifestyle inflation has a chance to claim it. Finally, audit one recurring monthly expense. Maybe it's a subscription that's rarely used. Maybe it's a service you've forgotten about. Redirect that money straight into retirement savings. Don't focus on giving something up. Focus on giving every dollar a permanent job. Small systems repeated consistently almost always outperform short bursts of motivation. So let's return to Jason and Smith. They didn't end up in different places because one was a financial genius. They didn't because one earned twice as much. The gap between $430,000 and $61,000 was built through hundreds of ordinary decisions that barely seemed important when they happened. Jason let raises become investments before they became expenses. He trusted compounding even when it looked unimpressive. He treated Social Security as a backup, not the entire plan. Smith made choices that almost anyone would have made. The difference is that normal decisions, repeated for decades, produce normal outcomes. The encouraging part is that the opposite is also true. Small, consistent improvements repeated over time can produce extraordinary results. The path to $500,000 isn't reserved for people with perfect incomes or perfect timing. It's available to people who make slightly better decisions, then give those decisions enough time to compound. If you enjoy calm, honest conversations about money without the hype, I'd love to have you here. Subscribe for a new video every week where we break down the numbers, the psychology, and the strategies that actually matter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm Brian.